time once again to slip into your camo, grab your bow, and join us out in the field for another episode of the Up North Journal, presented by PSE Archery. The Up North Journal crew is knocked and ready to rock for another exciting adventure. So let's step outside and hit the trail.
This episode of the Up North Journal podcast is brought to you by
PSE Archery, Yamaha Outboards, Better the Hunt, Easy Cut, Packer Max, Deer Camp Coffee, Buck Baits, JPO Game Calls, Total Peep, Sunrise Archery, Scent Lock, and Scent Blocker.
Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal, everybody. Host Mike Adams sitting in the cabin, refreshed from vacation down in Florida. I am back. I'm tan. I'm refreshed and ready to rock. How about you, Dan?
I am ready to rock. I don't know about tanned, but today's weather, I could have got a tan.
No doubt.
Almost
it's been
70
nice
degrees, right?
Absolutely. It's been nice.
That's awesome.
So, all right. Well, let's just get to it.
Let's do it. Let's get into our supporters that support us. Starting out with Buck Baits. If you haven't been to the brick and mortar store at 15 in Dodge Park, you can go check them out on the website at www.buckbaits.com. Use the promo code UNJ20. You'll get 20% off your order. And a good friend of our guest, a supporter of ours, Packer Max. Get $25 off your order if you use the promo code UNJ25 over at packermax.com. Give Lincoln Roan a call and see what's going on over there.
There you go.
JPO Game Calls. No time like the present to get in your orders for your turkey calls or your coyote calls or whatever calls you're thinking about. Use the promo code UNJ10. You get 10% off your there. Newest one, the Island Armory. I was there today.
I know. I actually spied you out.
I know you did. And I tell you what, you go to theislandarmory.com, you use the promo code UNJ10, you'll get 10% off your order. Go check out their website. They're constantly changing with getting in new guns, more ammo, parts, and whatnot. And they do have, you can get a suppressor.
Nice.
So, absolutely. And last but not least, we're drinking
Lucky Huntsman tonight in honor of tomorrow being Leprechaun Day or St. Patty's Day.
There you go. Get over to deercampcoffee.com. Use the promo code UNJ10. You'll get 10% off your order over there.
Don't forget we have our own label.
And if you check out the website, make sure you get some of the Up North Journal brew, and you can check it out.
All right. What's the temperature like up in Newberry tonight?
I just checked the temperature. Snow is melting. 45 degrees. If you get over to Cedars, get a pizza, and you can get Deer Camp Coffee there as well. But I tell you what, in 2 weeks, that snow has really gone down.
Yeah, it has. Big shout out to FM 123 in Newberry that carries our show up there. So we appreciate them working with us.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well,
but, you know,
what?
I tell
you got
what,
something else?
No, I got that. But I was just thinking, as we just went through the weather, you got to start thinking of this warm weather about food plots.
Well, yeah, frost eating season's here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Start thinking about deer. Start thinking about the upcoming season.
Think about deer 350 days a year.
356. Where'd you come up with that number at?
I don't know.
Are you all right tonight?
I gotta get. See, I hear laughing in the background.
Yeah, well, let's get our guest in here. Rob, I'm sorry, man. I've lost all control here tonight. I don't know what's wrong with Danny, but thanks for joining us tonight. We got Rob Pruitt on from Antler King, man. Thanks for joining the show.
I appreciate it. How you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing fine. I don't know what's wrong with Danny tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what. I was a DF student going all through school, but I feel pretty smart right now. So
there you go. No doubt about it. I tell you what. Good to have you on the show. Mark Coleman suggested we get you on, talk about you and Antler King and what Antler King's doing for the deer and seeing what you got going on, starting out, with you. How did you get into this?
Oh, man, hunting has always been a passion of mine. I grew up in a hunting family, very lucky. Used to do it all. Right now I'm pretty much, turkey and deer hunting is about all I'm doing anymore. But I just love it so much. But getting into the food plots is something that here in Central Illinois, where I'm from, there wasn't nobody planting food plots 25 years ago when I started doing it. And I had no idea what I was doing. And from that day till now, it's just became a passion of mine, something that I actually enjoy planting the plots and maintaining them just as much, if not more, than I do deer hunting. I just really enjoy it. I really enjoy teaching people about it. And number one is because I didn't have nobody except really a farmer that could really tell me anything about planting. And if anybody that gets involved with doing any kind of food plots like I got here behind me, it's night and day difference from planting corn and beans than it is doing a food plot. They can help you out some, but there's a lot of tricks of the trade that, I mean, people like me with the experience and everything that we could help people out, do it the right way.
And I tell you what, it's also become the way everything is materializing and getting the family out into the woods or outdoors. Food plotting is one way to do it, because I see more and more families getting into it with the kids doing some of the work, whether it's seeding part and the parents doing the breaking up of the soil and stuff. But I think it's a really good way to get the whole family involved into the deer prop as well.
It is. I mean, it's right there with, shed hunting, mushroom hunting, anything like that. My daughter, she grew up planting plots with me. She's getting ready to turn 24 years old. She still hunts with me. She helps me in the plots. We mow the clover. I got some ground in Indiana that we can actually do minerals in and stuff like that. Since we can't here in Illinois, she helps me replenish all them. It's just a family event that we just enjoy doing, like I say, just as much as we do sitting in the blind together during the fall.
Well, and that's also part of it, right? You go through, whether you start out now with a little bit of frost seeding, which we'll talk about. We'll get into the spring food plots, into the fall food plots, if you're using minerals and blocks. In the fall, you reap the benefits of sitting there and watching whatever might come through the food plot that you've planted.
There's nothing better than watching a deer come in and eat a plot that you planted. I mean, they come in there, they have bed down right in the middle of it. They rest up a little bit. They get up and eat a little bit more. I mean, this year I had a little button buck that every time I sit on this one food plot, I would run him off. No matter what time I went in there, I'd run him off, and he would come right back, and he would stay there the whole hunt. And I enjoyed watching that little button buck more than the couple deer I shot. It's fun.
The one thing that I really enjoy about the food plots, when you're sitting out, whether it be a box blind or sitting up in a tree stand, it holds those deer tight. It slows them down. They spend, like you said, a lot of time with maybe even bed down, but it also gives you a chance to watch how they interact with one another, watch their mannerisms. I mean, you get to know a lot about your local deer just by sitting in a tree stand and watching them.
You do, and you can learn a lot about them. And like one of my properties in Illinois here, you can go onto that property anytime and you will hardly ever jump a deer. They bed into a big thicket that is not allowed to be hunted on across my 12-acre field. Well, I like using them plots to, give them deer something. As they're heading north through my property, go to the ag fields, them deer have something to stop. And they will always come in that plot, feed around a little bit before they go to the ag. Same way on their way back in the mornings, they'll stop by there, get them a drink, come up the hill, get them a little bit more bite, and they head back across the bedding area. So, I mean, there's so much. I mean, you benefit so much by using a food plot that, everybody should be doing it. I mean, it's just something that it's addictive, though. I tell them all. You get doing one, you're going to do more.
Yeah. All of a sudden, you're starting to open up the field a little bit, or you're doing some lumbering and timbering, and before you know it, you got a tractor. So
yeah, exactly. You're buying chainsaws and everything else. You're ready to go. Yep.
So with somebody that's out there listening or watching right now that says, I've never done that. I've heard a lot about it. Like where do I start? I've got this piece of ground. Let's just say it's a half acre that they can plant in their timber or on the land that they got, and they want to put a food plot. Where do they start?
The number one thing that you should always start with when it comes to building a new food plot is if you're going to make an area yourself for that plot, especially to hunt it, you want to find out how you're going to get to and from that plot without boogering deer. Mm-hmm. A lot of people look at a spot and go, man, I'm going to put a plot right here. Then all of a sudden, October 1st comes and they go deer hunting and they're like, oh, I didn't check. I never pay attention to the wind directions that I normally get my prevailing winds.
Right.
And then they kind of booger the deer. Mm-hmm. So you really want to set that plot up where you can get in and out of it as best as you can without boogering any deer. So that's the number one step right there. And it has nothing to do with planting it. It's just put it in the right area that you can benefit from without spooking the deer.
So it's kind of like setting up a land management plan. Overall, you start with your piece of property and you figure out where you want to put it, but you also need to figure out how you're going to, like you said, to get to it, whether it's wind direction or maybe there's a land feature that either helps you or hinders you, getting in. So.
Well, and with that too, I mean, if you're lucky enough to have two plots, I always tell people, if you're able to have two plots, you should always have a food plot. You should always have a kill plot. Mm-hmm. That food plot is the one designated just for the deer. You're not gonna pressure it. That's theirs to feed on, keep on your property. The kill plot is what you're going to go and hunt over top of or to and from. So yeah, either one of them, a single plot or a double plot. There's different ways to look at it, but you can definitely benefit and having a successful hunt.
Well, one of the comments we had here is they said, it comes from Mark, and he says, what's frost seeding? You see, he lives so far south, I don't think he even knows what snow is, tell you the truth. But for those of us up here in the northern country or out west up in the northern tier of the United States, we've still got frost in the ground. And I know up north, 200 miles north of here right now, some people are doing some frost seeding. I've seen it on Facebook. So for people that still have access to getting some of that done, time's running out, but what do they need to get started in that direction?
Well, when it comes to frost seeding, you're looking at pretty much your perennial type mixes, your clovers, your chicories, your alfalfas, stuff like that. What I like to look for, and a lot of people want to frost seed too early because, like me, they're getting the itch. They want to hurry up and get it going, but I'm looking for, and Mother Nature can be cruel to you. You never know what curveball she's going to throw you. But I like looking at them nights when you're getting a good frost it's getting good and frosty. During the day, it's warming up and it's starting to melt that frost off. Mm-hmm. And that will literally, if you seed that seed on top of that frosted area, when it thaws out, it will suck the seed down. Pretty much Mother Nature's planting it for you.
Right.
So the good thing about it is when you deal with clovers and stuff like that, they're just going to lay there dormant until that ground temp gets up to about 50, 55 degrees. So they're not going to rot on you. They're going to lay there dormant. So for the people that do it a little earlier, you're fine. The biggest issue I see with people doing it earlier is you have a lot of competition with birds. The birds want to get in there and take the seeds from you because they're just laying there on that hard surface forever. Mm-hmm. So try to plant it when you know that you're starting to get out of that freezing type area and you're going to start warming up through the days and you're going to be thawing out. That's the best time to frost seed.
There you go. And something just simple as a hand sprayer and walking for smaller plots.
That's all I do. And, and also too, anytime you're planting a plot, no matter if it's frost seeding or if it's spring planting, fall planting, you want good seed to soil contact. So you're going out there frost seeding out into a yard, tall grasses, weeds, your germination is going to be way down. Mm-hmm. So like with me, I just got in frost seeding all mine last week while I was off the road, and I'm frost seeding off all my brassica plots. So I like rotating them. So them brassica plots, they got them 8 down to, it looks like you took a tiller in there. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm frost seeding. Or I'm going into my existing clover plots. What a lot of people do, and I'm not trying to take money out of my pocket, but when it comes to clovers, a lot of people will go in and refrost seed a clover plot every year. Mm-hmm. And unless them deer are getting in there tearing it up, you don't have to do that. Our trophy clover that I use, I frost seed every 3 years on my big plots. I got one plot that's 19 years old this year.
Wow.
And I frost seed it every 3 years. So you usually get a good 6 to 7 years of growth out of that mix. So when that old's going out, the new's coming in.
Gotcha.
Well, you know what, and that's the start of it. As we get into the year, you got the frost seeding. You can get in there and start to do that, and that's a good way to get out there and do some shed hunting as well.
Exactly.
Exactly. And go from there and start to see it. Kind of going back to what Mike said. This is a whole part of a management plan that you should be coming up with to start what you want to plant, where you want to plant it. Like you said, kill plots, but there's one most important thing that everybody should do before they go and start throwing seed left and right? Yep. And what would that be?
You want the number one thing that people do not do is they do not check their soil. That is the key thing to do when it comes to planting a food plot. You need to check that soil. You got a kit like our pH kits here. $15, you can test 4 plots. And lime is cheap. Lime's easy to put down. I highly recommend pelleted lime. It's easier. It doesn't take as much. But without that pH level being in that 6.0 to 7.0, your plants are not going to grow like they should. Now, there is some mixes that you can plant in a lower pH soil, but even if you can plant them in a lower pH soil, the higher the pH, the more nutrients them plants are going to be able to absorb in and the more forage you're going to get. So the pH is the number one thing you always want to check, no matter if you're planting a little backwoods no-till plot or if you're planting 6 acres out there in the middle of the field. Check that pH because it's going to make that plot so much better for you.
When is a good time to put down the fertilizer or the lime?
Lime, when you're dealing with pelleted lime, it takes about 3 months for that pelleted lime to break down. Ag lime takes about 6 months. So when I'm using pelleted lime, usually when my deer season is over and I've harvested my deer or the season just ran out, I'm checking my soil. I'm putting lime on in the wintertime. This year I put it in the day before Christmas. So It's I want that on and getting going into the soil, especially on the brassica plots, stuff like that, because anything you plant brassica-wise, they will literally destroy the soil in about 2 years. So you really want to keep up on them with your pH. Now, fertilizer, you can put fertilizer down early. I don't highly recommend it. I really like putting my fertilizer down when the plants are in the growing stage, as in the ground temp, depending on what you're planting, like the clovers. You need that 50, 55 degrees. You're getting close to that, I'll fertilize. But I'm not doing it in the dead of winter for the next year, no.
So where I'm at, up in the UP, I kind of got a plan. Well, there's probably still a couple feet of snow. But...
It doesn't get 55 in the UP until August.
So, okay. So
I was going to say turkey season, here in the middle of Michigan, usually 50, 55, right around April-ish, we get to that.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and that's kind of my plan is when I go up there, open up the cabin, I'm going to throw down some lime. I had my soil tested last year, so I'm going to throw it out there to this year. Pelletize is definitely the way to go because ag lime, if the wind's blowing, it's kind of messy. But,
you look like a snowman.
You will look like a snowman. Are we coming up on our break?
Yeah, I tell you what, we're up here on our first break, so let's take a quick step outside. We'll get our first break, and we come back.
We'll continue our talk about
some products in there.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has reinvented the way you buy bows.
From now on, you can make the most educated decision possible
by basing your bow choice specifically on your shooting needs and goals.
All you need to do is ask yourself, what kind of shooter am I? What do I want to achieve?
PSE will help find the right category for you.
So, what kind of shooter are you?
Find out at psearchery.com.
Welcome back, second segment of the show. What you got?
Talking about, when we went to our first break, we were talking about fertilizer. Lime, regular fertilizer, when to put it down, what to talk about. Other question that comes to mind is Roundup. When to use it? Should I use it? How do you, what's your thought of for the person that's got a weekend or a week up at their place, using Roundup?
Using Roundup, I would rather see you wait a minimum of 7 days before you plant anything after spraying. A lot of people are going to tell you that you can go 3 to 4 days. I've tested it many, many different ways, and I've found that minimum of 7 and about a maximum of 12, you can go ahead and seed in between that time, and you won't have no issue. I highly recommend using. I use glyphosate, which is a generic Roundup. I'm actually very anal when it comes to working my plots. Now, you're talking about a weekend getaway, so it's going to be tough there for you to use a herbicide to kill anything and plant the same weekend. It's going to be very, very tough on you.
That's why I said that's why I switched it from a weekend to a week, because probably July, that's probably what I'm looking at is probably a week.
Okay.
So I was thinking my plan was to get in there maybe the first day, spray the Roundup, let it get in there for a few days, and then come back towards the end of the week and do my planting. But there's one thing I definitely will use at the end of that planting is the Packer Mac.
There you go.
And because Lincoln Rowan is tuning into the show, absolutely going to tell him the Packer Max.
There's no better call to Packer on the market than that Packer Max. I'll tell you that right now. I own one myself.
Right, exactly. So that's the thing, right? You gotta kind of make a management plan like we talked about. When you're going to fertilize, when you're going to put lime down, if you're going to use Roundup, if you're going to frost seed. And then, so we got the preliminary out of the way. What product do you suggest give us a product that we're going to make our small little food plot for the year, and where should we go?
I've always said if you can only plant one food plot, it needs to be a perennial, such as a clover variety. You want something that's going to offer you 12 months out of the year food. Perennial is going to give you, depending on what you're planting, you're going to get 4 to 6, 7 years of growth out of it. With us, I'm actually literally good sunny area, good shaded, good sunny area, good soil. The trophy clover mix is actually what I'm planting. But now for you guys that have back in the woods, low pH, real shaded area, the Game Changer clover is going to offer you 4 good years of growth. It's going to give you a lot of forage. The trophy clover, you're looking about 10 tons of forage per acre if you got a good soil and a good sun. So that is what I would highly recommend if you only got one plot that you can plant, is make sure it's a perennial.
Okay, excellent. You're talking about forage, and that's a good thing to know. Having the right, this is where all leads kind of, you start to put it all together. Is if you have good soil, you get good product, you get good production, and then it gives, like you said, you've got tonnage you're giving to the deer that are going to need it for the upcoming breeding season and or during the winter when there's nothing out there.
Exactly. Well, and with that, we spoke about this, I think, here just shortly, the pH kit, checking that pH, that trophy clover is giving you 10 tons of forage per acre. Now, that's on a pH of 7.0, putting the right fertilizers in with it. Now, you drop that down to a 5.5 pH and put all the right fertilizers in with it, you're getting down to about 3,000 per acre of forage. I mean, it's just, or 3 ton of forage. That's the biggest reason why you should have to check your pH. You need to check that pH, buy that cheap lime, get it spread on there, because the forage amounts will just quadruple getting that pH up where it needs to be.
If I put the lime down, should I till it in or just let it sit on the top?
It's better if you can till it in.
Okay.
Same way with your fertilizer.
Okay, and then
especially if you're using a nitrogen-based fertilizer.
Okay, and then the pH test. The pH test is instant. We don't have to send it anywhere.
Nope. That pH kit will come with all instructions in it. All you actually need is you're going to need, I use a little 1 gallon bucket and a little garden shovel, get you about 8 ounces of dirt, but I like going in a food plot. I like digging me 1 little scoop on all 4 corners and 1 in the middle, mixing them up in a 1 gallon bucket, get me 8 ounces of dirt out of it, pour 8 ounces of distilled water in it, stir it up, let it set for about 10 minutes. Then we got the little strips you stick in there, pull it out and match it up, and it'll tell you exactly what your pH is before you walk out of the plot.
Oh, so it's like a test strip, not the same, but similar to what somebody would use on their pool.
Exactly right. Litmus strips, yep, exactly.
Okay.
And like you said, so that gives you an instant number to start driving to. And then how would you find out the recommendations for the lime and the fertilizer?
Actually, I know it'd be hard to show you on here, but in that kit, it actually tells you for the lime, it's going to tell you no matter if it's clay, if it's black soil, sandy soil, it's going to tell you how many tons per acre you need to use to bring it up to, a 6 or 6.5, 7, whatever you want to bring it up to. It's going to tell you how many tons. Now, that is an ag lime. So, you only need 1/10 of that for pelleted lime. So you just have to do some calculations there. But it's going to tell you the ag lime amounts you need to bring it up to the desired limit amount that you want.
So you got to do a little math, Danny.
Oh, boy. So I got fingers.
Take a calculator.
Hey, that's why they were invented. But, all right, cool. So we've got... Don't go there.
I was going to.
I know you were.
I had one.
I know you. I know you. So we got our soil pH tested. We've got our lime and fertilizer. We threw it all over the place. We got it into the soil. I got one of my food plots that it's kind of visible from the road if you really want to go there. Do you have something I could block that from the people driving down the road?
Screens.
Yeah, we have a product we came out with 2 years ago called Barricade. Now, this Barricade is an annual screen. We have had a perennial for many, many years, and we actually discontinued it because the perennial type is so expensive. Compared to this $20 right here for this Barricade that's actually going to plant you an 8-foot strip, a quarter mile long. To do that in a perennial, you're looking about $350. So we decided to go with the annual. You're getting a good 8 foot of growth out of it. Now, like with me, I know that product loves nitrogen. If you got enough moisture coming in, if you can pour the nitrogen to it, I think I actually sent you a picture of one of mine 14 foot tall. It's just amazing what that stuff can do and withstand the wind, the ice like we've had this year. I mean, it's very good. And for a $20 bill, if you're sitting in the stand like I do, and all of a sudden I'm looking out there going, I wish I'd have moved that over there. For a $20 bill, I can move it for the next season, instead of having to tear up a perennial and have to go spend much more money. So it works very well, and it's very inexpensive.
What is, as far as soil types, what is that going to grow in?
This is going to grow in, your sandy soil, your black soil, your clay soil. The key thing is what hurts a lot of people on sandy soil is organic matter. Mm-hmm. If you don't have organic matter in there to hold that moisture and everything, it's gonna suffer a little bit. The black soil, clay soil, it does phenomenal. We've actually tested it down to a 5.5 pH, and it did very, very well.
Okay.
But again, the better the pH, the more height and the stronger the plant's going to be.
I got to imagine like in a situation, and I've talked about it on the show here quite a bit, that we deal with at our place is the sandy soils. Holding that moisture, there's just not a lot of organic matter. But if you had something like the Packer Max with what do they call the crimper?
The crimper?
With the crimper on the back of it. If you could take it and you're doing this season after season, you start crimping that down and using that organic matter to hold that moisture in, planting back into that. Can you talk about that process just a little bit and how you go about that?
Yeah, if you have an area that you can actually use the crimper like the Packer Max has, that's perfect organic matter. You can work that into the soil. One thing I like doing, and when I was up in Wisconsin, we did a lot. I'd actually use straw. I'd take straw, yard clippings, anything like that, and work it into the soil to give that something to hold on to. But no, that crimper will work perfect as long as you got an area that is, you got a bunch of grass, weeds, whatever, or food plot, whatever you got on it, that you work that into that soil, it's definitely going to help you.
Well, and like you're saying, you get more bang for your buck. You put some nitrogen to it, get it to grow. But if we don't have that organic matter, if it's more like maybe the first season we only get it 5-6 feet tall, we come in, we crimp it down, and next season we do the same thing again, and it's just and keep building that soil with that. I mean, for $20, you said it's 8 feet wide by quarter mile long.
Quarter mile long, 8 foot wide, quarter mile long.
Wow.
Yep.
Right, exactly.
That's huge. That's huge.
And that's one of the things that we're talking about here. It's setting your property up again. Management. What would you say is a good using that product for the screen? A good width, all 8 feet, or maybe 3 feet wide, or what do you think is a good?
When I started testing this for a couple years prior to us bringing it out, getting it just right, I started at 6 foot, and 6 foot does okay. It does excellent if you're in an area that's not going to get hammered by a north wind in the winter. I do have one spot on a power line that is facing the north. The winds come through there 100 mile an hour. The 6 foot kind of hurt it. That there, I'm running at about 10 foot, and I have no issue. But all my areas that I plant out in my plots to direct the deer to come certain ways, I never go over 6 to 8 foot wide.
Well, looking at planting it wider versus the narrower width, is there any issues? I mean, I know it's seed to soil ratio, how much you put down and how tight it gets, but do you notice the deer running, working alongside it, or do they come through it, or do you leave a gap to get deer to funnel through it? How, as thick as that is, how do you work that?
In 4 years, I've never seen a deer walk through it.
Okay.
That deer will travel right alongside of it. But what I like doing, I like blocking the area off with it, and then I will take my brush mower and I'll make paths through it, and that's the ones the deer will travel.
Okay.
So they will walk all the way down that barrier, and all of a sudden they get to one of my 2 foot openings and they shoot right into it, into the food plot.
Gotcha.
That's how they come into it. So you can direct them. Now, another thing is we use it a lot for bedding. The one thing I tell people bedding though is I don't seed it as heavy. I will actually go a little bit lighter and do a bigger area. Let's say I'm going to do a 1/4 acre for a bedding area. Mm-hmm. Then after it grows up, I'll get in there and just walk through it and knock some spots down and always put an entrance and an exit through it. And then deer will come in there and bed as long as they got that entrance and exit. So it works out very good for a bedding area.
Okay. Now, speaking of that, one of the things that we have to deal with up here where we're at is black bear. We've had, some decent stands that we wouldn't cut. We would have our whatever we planted, whether it be rye, what have you, and we'd let it come to a seed head. And we left that in areas in bigger fields so that they could have a fawning ground. But then we started noticing the black bear would start getting through that and smelling, trying to find those fawns for predation. Does this? I'm wondering how robust this is as far as as keeping bear somewhat at bay. I mean, I know if you're planting it for bedding areas, if deer are getting into it, I imagine they will too.
Right. Well, yeah. And from what I know about bears of coming up there in Wisconsin hunting and everything, they're going to get into whatever they want to get into.
Exactly.
So if there's something in there they want, they're going to push their head right through it. No matter how thick you make the edges. Yeah, if you thicken up the edges on it, it might help out some, but you're never going to keep that bear out of somewhere where he wants to go with something like this.
Right, exactly. So, speaking of that, another product you have, we're looking at the website. What are those liquids you got right next to you there?
The liquids, we actually, Plot Max, this is one that we have had for 20 years. This is a soil conditioner. I highly recommend using it on any plot that you put in. This is actually humic acid as a soil conditioner. our clover fuel, which I brought the clover fuel in because I got some clover products. We came out with this in 2019 and tested it for a few years, got it down just right. Literally, I really think this is the best product that we have came up with in probably about 10 years prior to that. I mean, it is a liquid fertilizer strictly designed for legume plants. You're not going to feed the weeds and grasses with it like you will with a nitrogen-based type product, which the clovers and alfalfas and stuff like that, they don't need it. They don't need any nitrogen at all. So that product there is worth its weight in gold. I mean, if I go through a bunch of it. I'm the biggest diehard clover guy you'll ever meet in your life, and I plant a lot of it. 99% of all my plots are all clover, and that's something. Both these products, just like that clover fuel. Say you got grass coming up in your clover, and you go and buy you some clethodim herbicide, and you spray it to kill the grasses. Well, you mix this clover fuel right in with it. Even though that cleth ain't going to kill that clover, it does stun it for a little bit. Well, you're fertilizing that clover, and you're killing the grass at the same time in one pass. So you can mix them together for a one-pass application.
Nice.
All right. Well, I tell you what, we're bumping up here on our second break, so let's go ahead and get our second one out of the way. We're going to step outside, and we'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has always dominated the speed category. Now, the most revolutionary cam system ever to hit the market has perfected the shooting experience. Introducing PSE's Evolve Cam System, featuring extremely high let-off capabilities and the smoothest draw cycle in history. No other cam system has ever delivered this level of total comfort and total control. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Welcome back, third segment of the show. Danny, you got a question coming in.
Yeah, first things first, we're talking about Antler King with Robie Pruitt. And for anybody out there, if you go to antlerking.com, you can check out everything we're talking about, from their food plots to soil to minerals, attractants, and feed, and pick up some swag. And you can also order their catalog. They'll have it mailed to you. That's what I did. So got it out to me within pretty quick. So get out to antlerking.com. Question is, can you mix brassicas in with your clover, or will that mess up your soil?
Well, here's the thing. This is a tough one because there's a lot of people that ask me this. A lot of people do it. I do not like mixing brassicas in with my clovers. Number one, the brassicas will actually shade out the clover because they will outgrow them, and they're such a big leafy plant. They will destroy the soil. I highly recommend, if you're wanting to mix them, plant them side by side in the plot. Your brassicas are going to do so much better alone, and the clovers are going to do so much better alone. I'm saying that as if you have an established clover plot, or you want to have an established clover plot to lead on for years and years and years like I do, I would definitely not plant them together. Now, if you're just wanting to throw something together just for one season for that and do a fall planting of it, have a little bit of clover, the brassica is going to take over, but you still got a good amount of food, you're fine. But if you're wanting to really establish a good clover plot for the years to come, don't mix anything with it except for like chicory or alfalfa, something like that.
All right, so you're kind of going with the one type, one plot type. You know, like you said, I know some people are really into the brassicas, or yep. They're like you said. I got some extra seed. Can I throw it here? Type thing.
Right. When it comes to the mixes, you can mix a lot of different varieties of annual plants together and plant them alone, just like we have with our grade 8 mix. It has 8 different varieties of annuals in it. So stuff like that. But when it comes to mixing the perennials and the annuals together, a lot of people do it, but I'm just not a big fan. Like our trophy clover actually has one brassica mixed in with it, but it's very light, and all it's there for is to start growing like a spring planting. It will actually help nurse that clover along, and then it just dies off and goes away. It's not a big percentage that's going to take over the plot. So if you're going to do it and you have to do it for some reason, plant your brassicas very light, but most people want more brassicas than they want clovers, so I do them side by side.
Okay, cool. We talked about the fertilizers, getting it tested. What do we got for like the no plow crowd out there that
no-till drill?
Exactly. And you're going to take this what we got, and we're going to walk into the back of nowhere and going to plant this. What do you got for that?
We got 2 different varieties. We got a perennial, like I showed you earlier, Game Changer Clover. You're getting about 4 years of growth out of this blend. Now, we also have an annual, which is our no sweat. This is an annual mix that you can plant spring or fall, but I try to tell people if you plant in the spring, you just well think you're going to plant in the fall because the deer will wipe it out before your hunting season. So when it comes to my backwood plots, I always plant them fall only, and works very well. But what a lot of people get confused on when it comes to a no-till type application, number one, check that soil. I'm telling you guys, check the soil. It's going to make it so much better. Number two is you need good seed to soil contact. Going into an area that's got a bunch of weeds, grasses, leaves, pine needles, and trying to sow over top of it, you're going to lose so much germination. You're not even going to know you even did anything. You need to get in there, especially in small areas, logging roads, a steel rake if you don't have the equipment, and just rake all that stuff off. And the other thing is when it comes to a no-till back in the woods, nothing will grow in full shade. So you need to get that 3 to 4 hours of sunlight. You need to open that canopy up a little bit. You can get by with 3, but 3 to 4 is better. Getting that 4 is better. But you got to open that canopy up if you can to get some light on that. If not, nothing's going to grow except them old pesky weeds.
Well, thinking about that, where there's some canopy, you're going to open it up. You've got leaf litter down. Other things you're talking about, you cleaning the, scratching out the road, whatever. What are your thoughts on using a controlled burn?
Oh, I do it every year. That's one of my favorite things to do. I love controlled burns. Love it.
Okay. I mean, I've got to imagine, too, though, like a situation I was talking about earlier where you're trying to keep moisture in the ground. That's one of the things you don't want to do, and that's where you could use a Packer Max and crimp that existing down.
Crimp it down.
To hold that moisture in. Okay.
Exactly right. Yes, especially up where you guys are at. It worked out perfect.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Just make sure control burn don't get out of hand.
Yeah, you don't want that.
We've seen
you don't
that.
want that.
That's
I've seen that happen.
It's why you have, you have the proper equipment, the proper people. If you're not easy in doing it and not a professional or whatever, don't go try to do a control burn and
right.
Get out of control.
Well, back in the canopy area, okay, let's say we've got something that's, fairly open on the ground. We've got some old growth, and we're going to do some timbering and select cutting. Let's say, we've got 75 to 100%. I mean, we've got clear ground below because the canopy's so thick.
Yep.
What are we wanting to get that canopy to as far as percentage-wise opened up? Are we talking 50%? Are we talking 40%? I mean, how far back are we going to cut?
You can get down to that 35, 40% and still get a good amount of light in it. It's actually going to depend really is, if that plot's running north, south, east, west, what it's going to do, how the sun's laying into it. Mm-hmm. So you can get by with about 30% on the right application.
Okay.
30, 35.
I know timbering is a huge issue, especially for people that may be a little older in age, a little older than some of us. It's a very touchy situation up here, especially in Michigan. It causes a lot of arguments at camp, so to speak.
Yes, it does. It does here too. It really does. Okay. I think that's all over, especially with the older generation.
Right.
So one of the questions coming through from Tammy is, so you're pretty much thinking 12 months out of the year about food plotting.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, you have to. I mean, once season's over, you're getting everything together for frost seeding if that's what you're getting into. Timber management, what have you. I think food. The thing that I've noticed is you go from food plotting, you get into timber management, you get into habitat management. Like you said, for you, it grows exponentially, and you never really quit thinking about it.
No, you don't. And like with me using all the clover products, I'm in the woods every other weekend. Mm-hmm. I have to, them big clover plots, the smaller clover plots, the deer pretty much eat because, anytime you see clover flower, you want to top it because it's at its lowest protein rate, least palatable for the deer to eat. Mm-hmm. So you want to cut that to turn that back around.
Right.
And so you get these big plots. I don't want them setting at their lowest. I want them at their highest. So I'm in there every time I see them lit up with flowers. I'm in there mowing them, but I enjoy it so much. That's just my time away to get out, sit on a tractor, sit on a 3-wheeler, 4-wheeler, whatever I'm using, whatever plot I'm mowing in, and just go out and have fun. I got plots that I actually use a weed eater and some small backwoods. The Game Changer clover, that 4-year clover, I use it a lot on logging roads. So I'll get in there with a weed eater and just take the tops off of it. But it's just always something to do, and it's just fun to do it.
I got a picture up right now, 3-wheeler with the mower behind it in your clover. I mean, we're looking at the flower heads on it, and you're saying that's the time to cut it. How tight do you want to cut that back to the ground?
I like leaving about 5 inches standing, 5 to 6 inches standing.
Okay.
Is what I like to leave. That mower there is giving me about 5 inches. I actually got a lift kit on that mower, so it's giving me about 5 inches when I make one pass.
He's got a lift kit on the mower. I like this.
Yeah, I do.
Right?
Is it 4-wheel drive too?
I know, right? It's actually
No, it's 3-wheel drive.
Right. There you go.
You know, and that's part of all taking care of your thinking food plots 12 months out of the year, taking care of them when you get to them. But, you know, Antler King is just not all pH kits and seed and mineral or some fertilizers. Looking at the attractants, starting with minerals as I walk down your... when should we get into the minerals, and how often should we supply or reapply them if we're starting a mineral site?
Let me get into that just in a second, but let me finish up something on the food plots real quick.
Sure.
We're going to get away from that. And I think it's very important for everyone to know this, and I've dealt with 2 people today on it on calls. When it comes to planting a food plot, ground prep is key. Seed to soil contact is key. A lot of people are getting out there these days and they're using tillers. And there's nothing wrong with the tiller, as long as you know how to prep the soil. And they turn that soil into powder. They broadcast on top of it and want to call the packet. Well, when you're planting these type of small seeds, you know, you look at a clover seed size of a pencil lead. Mm-hmm. And, you know, an old farmer told me 25 years ago, he said, Rob, never plant a seed deeper than 3 times its size. So he said, that's just a rule of thumb. And I've done that and I've had great success with it. So what I highly recommend anybody, if they're using a tiller, a disc, no matter what they're doing, breaking the soil up, always call to pack that soil, pack it down. If you don't have a call to packer like the Packer Max that we all use, your 4-wheeler, tire track it in, pack that soil, get it tight, then broadcast your seed and pack it one more time. Mm-hmm. So you always want to pack your soil prior to seeding and always pack it afterwards. So that loose soil, you get a hard rain, Mother Nature is going to stick that seed 6 inches deep in that powdered soil. So you don't want that, but always pack that soil first and then seed it and pack it again.
You want to give your seed a nice little bed to lay in, and then you want to cover it up and pack it in there and give it a nice, like you said, soil seed contact and soil prep. Besides knowing your pH is the most important thing.
That's the most important thing, and I'll tell you what. And I'm not trying to be a salesman here or nothing like that, but that Packer Max that we all been talking about here, that is key right there. If there's somebody out there that's never used one, they need to use one, because I've used the big old call to packers for years, 10, 12 footers. You can't move them nowhere. A lot of times they're too heavy for what I'm wanting to do, especially when I want to go back over it that second time. That Packer Max has made my life so much better, so much easier to travel with it. It's the right weight. It works perfect. And like that 3-wheeler you just seen there, I pull it behind that 3-wheeler with no problem loaded. I mean, it's the perfect little tool.
Okay, I got a question for you. Since we're talking about the Packer Max, you cultipack your ground before the planting, and 9 times out of 10, you're running water or something like that. Hopefully it's water so you can get it out of there to weight it down. Once you plant, you broadcast your seed on top, and you want to run it a second time. Do you let part of the water out or all the water out to keep it light so it doesn't mash it down too far?
Nope, that machine is calibrated perfect. With a full load, it will not push it down too far.
Okay.
Nope, it works. I mean, I do the clover, the smallest seed that you're going to plant, it makes it look like you drilled it in. Okay. I mean, it works so well.
All right.
And a very important question is, how old is that 3-wheeler?
I bought that brand new in 1986. It was the last one Honda had on the floor when they outlawed them. That if we could have $1 for every acre that thing has mowed, I'd have something. I'm telling you.
There you go.
That's my baby. That's why I'm single. I traded it for my wife. So
there you go.
Man, we should. Never mind.
I know, right? Don't even go there. But that is so important. You can't stress enough whether you start at the beginning of your planting with the pH soil, or when you're finished at the end, when you're cultipacking it, putting the seeds with that soil contact. It's so important to get the whole process complete if you can, the best you can. And even if you're out in the middle of your 40 acres on your favorite, and you want to put in, at least get a rake or something and break up what you got. Just don't, like you said, don't throw it right on top, because your germination factor will probably be on the minus side, actually.
Yep. And one other key piece that I can tell you is, and a lot of people do it and they don't realize how bad they're hurting themselves, unless you can put enough water on it, never ever water a food plot to try to get it germinated. So a lot of people will go out and they get these 500-pound totes, and they go out and they put 500 gallons of water on a half-acre food plot. Well, it takes 30,000 gallons of water to equal one inch of rain per acre. So if you cannot get 30,000 gallons of water per acre, do not do it, because all you're doing is getting that seed just enough wet and it can rot and mold on you. Let Mother Nature take care of it. If she's going to be cruel, just let it sit there dormant. Just let it sit there. Just do not water it unless you can put the accurate amount of water you need on it.
There you go.
Something I did not know.
Absolutely. We learned. That's what's great about this. We learn something new every week.
Yeah, I learned lots of stuff by hanging around you. I tell you what, let's get our last break out of the way, and that way we can take as long as we need to here on the last segment. All right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we're going to step outside, take our last break, and we'll be right back after this.
Acceleration is part of PSE's DNA. PSE pioneered the speed movement. Now they've developed the vapor category to help you find the most powerful bows on the market to fit you.
High speed equates to intense power and building the momentum you need to be successful. Are you a vapor shooter? Find out at psearchery.com.
Welcome back. Last segment of the show. And for those of you who are listening, once again, you missed a nice little chat here in the break. You need to go back. If you want to know about a little bit about control burns, go back and listen.
Absolutely. Go back and listen. And while you're at it, as we talk with Antler King and Rob Pruitt here, get yourself over to antlerking.com. Check out all the products they got, from food plots to soil to minerals, some attractants and feed. And if you're on Facebook, get over to Antler King Trophy Products Incorporated and go like their page while you're over. But talking about, we talked about food plots, we talked about soil, fertilizer. Talk a little bit about minerals and setting up a mineral site, or how should we handle that?
Well, on a mineral site, that's kind of funny you ask this. We actually have a product, it's heavy, called Trophy Deer Mineral. This Trophy Deer Mineral is actually what started this company in 1986.
It was a complete orange bag with black lettering.
Yep. And the bag is the only thing that has changed. And I fought till I was blue in the face, and they wouldn't do it. They changed the bag on me. I did not want that changed, but it happened. But that mineral started Antler King. Todd's selling out back to his car. He came up with it. It was our mineral was the very first mineral ever put on the market for sale in the hunting industry. The very first one ever out there. So, and knowing that mineral has never changed, to me, it means so much, because it just shows how good it is. And that is one of our number one selling products. Kind of funny. A lot of the states where it's illegal to use, they're some of our best selling states. It's kind of crazy that way.
Right. Exactly.
Like Michigan.
But when it comes to a mineral lick, what I highly like to do, I want to do a mineral lick in a spot that you're not going to pressure that area. You want to take that spot, preferably nothing on a slope. You want a good flat surface area there. I just like cleaning out about a 4-foot circle and just rake it out, kick it off your boots, whatever. Now, you can take a steel rake and rough the ground up if you want. You don't need to, but clean that off of all debris and take that 120-pound bag and just spread it all over the whole circle, and then let Mother Nature do her thing as the rain comes in and stuff like that. One thing I see with mineral, and again, here I am preaching the gospel and hurting sales, I see a lot of people use way more mineral than they need to per year. That 20-pound bag of mineral right there will go a long ways. And I'm talking, it'll get you through 4 to 5 months through the year in a normal deer density area. A lot of people think when they don't see it that it's gone. Well, that is actually designed to leach into the soil. That's why they dig the hole, they make the pond. That's how they get the intake from it. So, but no, that product there is, I call it my baby. I love that product so much, being the very first one, starting this company from scratch. And you can't beat a mineral lick. A proper mineral lick, if you're looking for something that's going to help the deer herd, ours has the AMP in it, which is going to help with their digestive system, which is key. But if you find a mineral that is, I'm going to say 37% or lower, you probably got a pretty good mineral you're going to be working with. Anything over 37% salt, and 37% salt, you're pretty much getting into an attractant type mineral. A lot of these minerals out there these days are real high in salt. It's like candy, to me. I love candy. Deer eat salt just like I do candy, and makes a heck of an attractant, but they're not benefiting from it. So if you have anything over there in that salt content above about 37-40%, you're not getting the best mineral that you can have. So that's why this one works out so good. We have another one called Lick Magic. Lick Magic's a very good. It's higher in salt. It's got 10 vitamins and trace minerals in it. It's got our yeast culture in it, the AMP. Works out very well, but it's more of an attractant mineral compared to our trophy deer mineral. Our trophy deer mineral is the number one mineral we have if you're wanting to build a healthier deer, which then will build bigger antlers and stuff like that.
What would one mineral site, how big would that cover? Like one mineral site per X amount
per 40 acres.
40
per 40 acres.
There you go.
One site per 40 acres is what we highly recommend.
Okay. No, that's perfect.
So we're putting out the mineral, and then you get the attractant side of it. How side by side? How far apart? What are we doing with that later in the season?
With the attractants?
Yeah, you're going to use them before season. Get your deer coming in.
Yeah. The mineral is going to attract for the mineral side itself. You don't have to use any of our attractants along with it. The attractants we have, you're using them for what I call camera magnets. They are, a lot of our, I don't have any sitting here with me, but, very high in protein, energy, fiber. So you can use them as a little supplement and an attractant at the same time. You can put them in front of a camera to get all the pictures you want. You can put them in front of your stand if it's legal in your area. But you do not have to use them side by side with the deer mineral because it has its own attractant aroma to it.
Okay, so that'd be something that'd be good for like a camera survey.
Yep, exactly.
Checking
your density and all that. Gotcha.
So did you come up with the name Bean Cuisine?
Roasted bean cuisine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe cotton candy?
The cotton candy, I'll tell you what, that's anybody that can feed deer or use it for an attractant too if you want, but anybody that can feed deer, that cotton candy is crazy good. It's something that, I went down to a show in Texas 4 years ago, and I started seeing all these products down there that were cotton. Got our wheels turning, so we worked for about 2 years trying to come up with something that we could use and testing it. And we thought this is going to be a South product only. Nope, nothing up here is going to touch it. They don't know what cotton is. And we've used it up in the North Woods and stuff like that and had people test it for us, and the deer will destroy that cotton.
Really?
It's crazy. I have no idea. I've never thought in a million years that deer in the Midwest and up there would ever touch cotton, but they will literally destroy it and come back looking for more.
Something they like and that they've not seen before, and once they get a hold of it, they want more of it.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, and the last thing we got to talk about is maybe you're getting into a feed program using the deer and elk pellets or something like that. Talk a little bit about what you got there in the rack maker and the deer and elk pellets.
Well, you look at our products like the rack maker. We've had the deer and elk pellets for, 20 years, I'd say. A high protein pellet that has a digestive aid built in with it too, and works very well. Started them out with like a lot of the deer farms and stuff like that, and then it's just went crazy, and outfitters and all are buying them. But we decided to come up with that rack maker, more of an all around. What I try to explain it to people, if they know what a sweet feed looks like, that's kind of what it looks like, with your roasted beans in it, your corn, your pellets. It's got the protein pellet in it, the whole 9 yards, dried molasses where it won't stick into your feeders. But if you ever look at our products are going to keep down like that one. There's a 16% protein. A lot of people call me, man, I don't want to use that. I want something that has 30% protein in it to use in the wintertime. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the worst thing ever you can do. A deer can only utilize 16% protein without burning fat off its body. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at a feed like the rack maker, we call that a 12-month out of the year feed. They got a good protein there in the spring. It's going to get them through the summer. And then in the fall, when they're trying to build their bodies back up, the last thing you want to do is burn fat off that deer while he's trying to fatten his body back up with too high a protein. So that's why you'll see our products sticking in that 16 to 18% range on protein. Now, springtime, if you want to bump it up, like you called that roasted bean cuisine, high in protein. If you want to mix some in with it to get a little bit more protein while them deer are growing their antlers, the does are having their fawns, you can do that. But you get into that July and August, get rid of that high protein and go back to that 16%.
Something I keep thinking about as we're talking through here, especially with the protein levels. So many times it's like, well, if this much is good, then twice as much or 4 times as much is better. Right. And so many times we're doing more damage to our animals than we even dream about. And Lincoln Roan, he's in here watching it, and just like he said, salt, too much salt is bad for us. It's bad for deer as well. So I mean, the science of what you guys are teaching people people, to me is invaluable. I mean, that's the things I think that a lot of hunters that are just getting into this stuff really need to understand.
They do. And I'll tell you, the worst thing ever for a deer is feeding straight corn. Straight corn is the worst thing ever on a deer's digestive system.
Absolutely.
I mean, very bad. So, I mean, when you can offer them something that, number one, has a digestive aid in it, that's going to help them store it where it needs to be stored, keep the protein down, keep the energy good, keep the fiber good. We also have that same deal in our Grainiac block, which was our number one selling block. That Grainiac is the exact same formula that is, I mean, it's phenomenal. I mean, them two products right there, you can use all year long, not hurt the deer. You're only going to benefit them.
Right.
And one thing I would like to say, you just brought something up, being use this much, now you want to use this much, get double amount. Same thing goes for food plot seed. Never overseed a food plot. The worst thing ever in the world is put too much seed on a food plot, because then plants will fight with each other and they'll compete for each other for nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
Worst thing ever. I get that call on a daily basis that people's put 2 acres of seed on a 1 acre plot and wonder why it came up 6 inches tall and well, it's over dead.
Yep.
They compete with each other. So not to get back in the food plots area there, but I did want to say that.
Well, it's important. I mean, you got to go with the ratio that you're supposed to use. I mean, there's a reason people give you that information, and there's a reason if it twice as much was better, then that's what we would do. But you know, follow the recommended application no matter what you're putting on.
I think the best part of what we're trying to portray and what you're doing as well is more on the food plots are nice, but education is better. Mm-hmm. Knowing about what you're doing or what you're going to do or before what you want to do before you do it goes a long way. You know, like we talked about fertilizer, right? Don't over fertilize. Yep. You know, or overseed or go back to even to the pH test. Just do it and start that education. And yours is a great source, like you know, Facebook is a great source to have those forums. You get the right people in there to answer some of the questions, whether it be you or Lincoln Roan, you know, talking at these shows. You get some of these people, like Mike said, hey, I got a 1 acre plot, so I'm going to put 3 acres of seed on it, and we're good to go, right? And it's just one of those things, I think, in anything we do, if we're pushing the education side of it, of why we're doing it, and why, when, and how, is it can be as simple as using a rake as to using farm implements and going from there.
Right.
And you know what? And when I started out, I didn't know anything about it. And truthfully, I was the guy that was going to the co-ops and I'm buying seed and I'm buying a pound of this and a pound of that, mixing them together. And I get 6 inches of growth. It looks all right. Okay. Well, one day I walked through the Illinois Classic and I walked up on this Antler King booth and the guy there told me all about the trophy clover, and 25 years ago. And from this day on, that's all I've used, because I could not believe the difference in growth, because a lot of people look at it going, you know, all you need to do is buy 1 pound of this, 1 pound of that, 1 pound of this. Well, no. When you work with a food plot seed, you got to get them percentages just right so they don't compete with each other. Mm-hmm. And yes, you can make a plot look like a golf course out there and get 6 inches tall. But if you lightened up on some of them other mixes that you mixed in, it could be 12 inches tall right now, and they have more forage. So the stuff we do and the testing we do, I think, makes us stick out in the food plot industry, because we are very anal about it. And I am, especially when it comes to food plot seeds and the mineral. But yeah, we need to get the word out there and help all these people out, especially the youngsters coming in. They're gang-ho to do this stuff and they want to learn, and we need to teach them.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it. And we got Mark Coleman, who loves loves Rack Maker, and he says it smells so good, he would eat it.
I think I've seen him at the Indiana show eating on some of it, actually.
Eating it like candy, huh?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, like popcorn, just throwing it up in there.
Right. You know, something you had touched on that kind of piqued my curiosity, too, is when you're mentioning the different feeds. You mentioned the milk production for does. I think that gets overlooked so much.
It does.
And it's so important. I mean, your fawn recruitment, if you're not feeding them properly, you're not going to have recruiting them into the next season.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, it plays a big role in milk production and the whole 9 yards. I mean, it's there's nothing. Here in Illinois, I cannot use mineral, and it kills me. Mm-hmm. 3 miles from my property is Indiana, and another 3 miles, I got a piece of property I'm using mineral in out of season.
Right.
The difference that you see in fawns, and and the size of the body of the deer compared to the two farms in 10 years, it'll blow you away. I mean, it's so good on them. But them fawns, I love seeing them in them feeders, in them mineral licks. As little tiny squirts, can't even hardly walk around, but they're got their head down in them mineral licks.
Yeah,
it's helping them. It's helping them doze.
Especially coming out like up here in the north where we have such cruel winters. It's so hard on them. But when we first start to get that green up, that's when we need to be putting something down for them. But here in the Lower Peninsula, we're not allowed to. So unfortunately,
well, and the number one thing the founder Todd Stittelberg of Antler King, the number one thing he has always pushed and told me, and he still does to this day, is a white-tailed deer buck can never grow his full potential unless his body is back to where it needs to be.
Absolutely.
So you got to get that body built back up through that winter into that spring and get that body built up, or he'll never be able to get the full potential out of him. There's a lot of truth in that.
There is, absolutely, because it's all going to go into the health versus the
health part of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And we've been talking about Antler King the whole time and your website and everything, and it looks like I can go shopping right there at the website. Are you guys how is it for product and getting it out to the people if they order it? Everything in stock? Or?
We got her in stock. It's springtime. There is a few times there that we might run out of a few things here and there because we're filling our big box store orders. But right now we're full blown. We have it. It's going out within a day or two. The number one thing with us is when you order online, it's free shipping. No matter what you order from us online, it's free shipping. That's so, and another thing good about our online there, if you click on there and go to dealer locate, you put your zip code in, it's going to tell you the stores that carry it in your area. And you can put 25, 30, 50 miles, whatever in that radius. That's going to tell you what stores in your area carry it.
There you go. So either way, you've got access to it. You don't have to worry about the dirty two little words called supply chain.
Exactly.
That's good to know. I mean, because there's so many things in the hunting industry right now, hunting, fishing, whatever. It's like you've got to wait 6 months, you got to wait a year, for certain things. It's just crazy, right? So.
Well, right now with us, I mean, the only thing killing us right now is the price of everything. Mm-hmm. Especially when you're dealing with feeds and stuff like that that's using grain. Mm-hmm. It's fluctuating. It's not weekly; it's daily. I mean, it's just a rack maker and stuff like that. And we got to lock them prices in. So we really got to watch it when we do it. Because, there's been times we get hurt on it because we got it locked in,
Well, you know what? I want to chase a rabbit here since you mentioned that. It just popped in my head. Is this something that we need to be concerned about with what's going on over in Ukraine right now? Because so much feed and grains come from that area of the world. Is that really going to hit this industry as well at some point?
We're hearing that it could.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Especially the seed and grain. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. That's there's a few products I know that we have heard from this year already that they're talking like buckwheat and stuff like that of being a shortage in. Because of some droughts and some fires and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know how extreme it's going to get, but there's some talks about a lot of different things out there that, right now it's talk. We don't really know for sure,
right.
But there's some people worried about certain things, if it's going to be a shortage or not. So we'll see how it plays out. It can't be good.
It'd be a good idea to get your hands on what you plan on planting this year before something like this comes about.
And that's what I tell everybody. I say, hey, get this stuff. If you can store it in a house or any place that you can store it that is climate controlled where it's not going to draw moisture, this stuff will last you all year long. So if you want to get it and not worry about it, you buy it right now, and that seed's going to be perfectly fine for you to even plant this fall. And just keep it where it's not going to draw moisture in the back.
Shelf life on your products?
It depends on the product, really. You get into your clovers, alfalfas, your chicories, turnips, radishes, stuff like that, certain states is different. Some states we can sell them for 2 years. Some we can sell them for 3. One thing with us is if they're what we call it retagging. Mm-hmm. If there is a product goes over a year old, they let us know. We send them retags to let people know when that seed was tested. But in something like say certain ones. But I'll tell you what, that trophy clover. I went to a warehouse that was that was going out of business, and they had 9 bags of it there that was over 9 years old.
Wow!
And I had probably the best looking clover plots I ever had.
Really?
As long as you can keep them. Yeah. The key thing is all these bags are perforated. They can breathe. That's the biggest thing about them is that seed has to be able to breathe. If you get a container that's solid, locked up tight, your germination rates will be cut quicker. So you want to be able to breathe, but don't let them get any moisture to them. But yeah, it's all the product that comes from our warehouse is if you order from online from us, it's going to be the freshest seed you can buy.
That's good to know. All right.
There you go.
I'll tell you, we're running up out of time here, but before we let you go, you sent me a couple pictures of some deer here. I got to know a little bit about these couple deer here that you sent these photos of. Do you know which ones I'm talking about?
I know I sent a couple deer, but I don't know which ones you're looking at right now.
Well, the delay here is about 20 seconds. So in about 20 seconds, the first one will pop up. You're sitting on the ground. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like about a 10-point mainframe.
Nice sunny morning. It looks like.
Sunny morning, sitting in your camo overalls.
Yeah, that would be the deer from this year.
Okay.
It's like this through the season.
Okay.
Yep.
And that was killed on one of your pieces of property.
That was killed on one of my Illinois farms, yeah.
Okay.
That funny story about that one is I was hunting that deer, and I walked into the woods from my truck, and I got to a holler that I come up to, and I heard something running, and I got just to the edge of the holler as a doe crested right in front of me with that buck chasing her, and she darted down, went up the hill on the other side of me to go up the draw, and that buck went over there at 30 yards and stopped, and I shot him on the ground walking in.
Wow.
Yep.
Nice.
So it worked out perfect.
That's a nice rack on that buck.
Did you have that buck aged?
No, I never did. Nope.
Okay.
Man, that is beautiful.
I know, right? And the other picture you got looks like it's dark time. It looks like it's nighttime.
Yep, that's the big 9 that I shot 2 years ago.
Okay, narrow and tall.
Yeah, but actually you can't see him. He's over my shoulder now, but you can't see him.
You know, down in Indiana where I've got a place to hunt, it looks a lot like the deer that we hunt down there. They're not as wide, and they're real tall. So I got to imagine that's just in the genetics in that throughout that area. Because
there it is.
Okay.
Yep. It sure is.
Yeah, I've never seen so many bucks in my life that all had that same characteristic. So.
Yep.
Well, there you go, Danny.
All right.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're running up out of time here. Anything you got, Dan, that you want to run?
Just a reminder, everybody out there, go visit antlerking.com. Check them out. If you want to buy something, you can buy it right from the site itself. Or I did a quick search of the area. It looks like any Tractor Supply. TSC. Go over there. They'll have the product available. And then if you're on Facebook, get over to Antler King Trophy Products Incorporated and check them out.
There you go.
And just let you guys know too, if anybody calls into the Antler King phone number, it will be directed to me for any questions on products. So anybody feel free to call and talk to me personally.
There you go. That's a great idea. You know, if you got any questions about food plotting, we talked about it a lot here, but if you got a certain question, a special question, use that phone number. Talk right to Rob, and he'll give you the answer.
There you go.
Yep.
Can't beat that.
Anywhere I can.
That's awesome. All right, well, we're going to wrap up the show tonight, folks. Thank you for spending an hour with us, actually a little over an hour here now, out of your Wednesday evening here, helping the guys and gals out there that are getting ready to do some food plotting. Make sure you go over to their websites, all their social media, give them a like, follow, share, do the same for us. If you're listening to the show over on iTunes, make sure you give us a review. That helps us and also helps our supporters.
And if you catch our show on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. That helps us out as well. Like I said, it'll take a couple days. I'll end up posting over it on the YouTube channel, and then you can see it there.
There you go. Now, next week we've got who?
Don't know yet. Stay tuned.
I thought we had somebody scheduled.
I haven't heard back from
them. Oh, okay. Well, I guess we don't.
We did.
All right. I'll tell you what. That'll do it for us this week, folks. Tune in next Wednesday night, 7:30, and we'll sure to have something good on for you. Y'all take care. Be safe out there, and we'll see you next week. This episode was brought to you by
PSE Archery, Yamaha Outboards, Better the Hunt, Easy Cut, Packer Max, Deer Camp Coffee, Buck Baits, JPO Game Calls, Total Peep, Sunrise Archery, Scent Lock, and Scent Blocker.
Thanks for listening, and join us again here next week. Until then, remember, as we always like to say, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe. Until next week on the Up North Journal.